While it has been a minute, today we are back for a book review, and today's book is the recent release Slow Gods by Claire North. This is a standalone sci-fi that, from the description, sounded still big in scope. It also gave vibes of some of the other slightly my favorite sci-fi type series, so I was very, very intrigued. Have I ever read anything by this author? No. Would I have possibly known more of this style to expect if I had? Maybe. So I question anybody who has read some of her other books to let me know if that's the style that she goes with as well. I'm Morgan. If this is your first time here, we're going to section this off. I will have a spoilery part, but it'll be sectioned off, so you can just skip over that if you want. Though I don't think it's going to be too big. This one is still hard to pin down how to describe it. It really is. So I have my notes, such as they are, and we will go ahead and get into what this is all about. Our main character that the book follows, as we are following a single character through the entire novel, is Mawakana Na Vandiz. Yep. We will put it on the screen and you can pronounce it as you see fit. I had the e-arc for this, and even the audiobook doesn't come out till some form in December, I believe, so good luck with that. Ma was born in the Shine, and the way the Shine works is that you work for what you get. There is, of course, the hierarchy system, and people are able to do more things and get more of what they call shine, and you have shininess. That is not the money system. The money is glint. But if you have more shine, that means like more charisma, more people are willing to do something for you. You have sometimes smarter, sometimes that doesn't always work though. But even from birth, you have a debt. You accrue debt from being born and having to get your immunizations and the foods and stuff. Ma, though, his parents did save up a little bit, so he had hardly any debt. However, by the time he's finishing up his schooling at 14, because they don't really prioritize education, because an educated populace would be asking questions, of course. And while he isn't dim, he didn't test well in anything, so they didn't really see a need to continue schooling, even though he liked science aspects, but that wouldn't make much money, so he just went into the workforce from there. And all the things just kept being so unlucky. It said from even when he was really little, he didn't even know how to properly smile because his parents owned a restaurant. So of course, being happy, being very pleasant to the customers would be important. When he was tiny, he was cute and it was okay. Though in those middling childhood years, when you're supposed to respond certain ways, smile certain ways, people expect things. And he could never quite master that. So even from the beginning, Ma has this differentness about him. And this is only exacerbated, I think that's the right word, as the story goes on based off the circumstances that occur to him. Because of this indenture service, because they can't use the word slaves, slavery is outlawed, but pretty much you are a working slave your entire life, because schooling puts you into debt. Medical care puts you into debt. Pretty much anything puts you into debt. And if you get so far into debt, then they might sell your debt and put a debtor's collar on you, and then you have to go do other things. And this has led to the unpleasant of Ma having to be where he was, that led to him being at the mercy of extra forces, as the description said, that he was used by lots of people and by beings pretty much. And that is a discussion for later. Ma's differentness, though, that started from even when he was little, which is an interesting thing because later in the book, as he's an adult and into all the years forward, he always kind of thinks of him being different because of what happened to him. But it really was earlier than that. It shows signs of things that it's not that he was different, it's just he couldn't be what his society expected of him. It just didn't quite click for him. He couldn't possibly read the emotions quite right to understand the social situations. That is a theme that goes with him through his whole life, is he knows he's expected to say a thing or do a thing, but he can't quite do it right, and then that makes people around him uncomfortable, and then that makes them more afraid of him in later situations, and It just tends to spiral into bad situations. Slightly moving on from the character, but yet it's the narration style. I know that this will not work for everybody because not everybody likes having a narrator over the story, somebody telling it to you, which I did find interesting because one, I just liked the way he was doing it, and it'll seem maybe like he's talking down, but he doesn't expect you to know these things, so this is how he's talking to you. I do think as this book kept going, the story kept going though, that it was much less obvious this is what was happening. By the end of the book, it was almost not like he was still telling us this story, but we were there with him, which was an interesting aspect as well. I don't know, that could have just been me and the way I was reading it. I would love to know if somebody else gets that from it as well. Now, an interesting thing for sci-fi, sure, they don't always focus on science, but normally there is this big sciencey aspect where you're in sci-fi, especially in the far-flung future. One thing, we don't actually know how far into the future we are because there is no reference to Earth. In a lot of sci-fis, you know, Earth is either was in the past, it was this or that, or at least the ones I've read. I'm sure there are others that are far out in the universe, never have anything about Earth. It's just there. That's what this is. Humans are just in space. And yes, there are other species besides just humans, but they're only mentioned in passing, pretty much. They're not a focus or anything. It's all about humans in the different systems of this galaxy, pretty much. And the science is just kind of there. It's never gone into the depth either. The only one that we really almost kind of talk about more is the arc space travel. There's this thing that they have figured out, and it does make their space travel so much faster, and it's how they might be able to save star systems. Because the big thing that's flowing through the whole story, it's not the plot, but it's what the plot beats surround and what causes everything to kick off in the story, is when Mao was in his 20s-ish, emissaries from the Slow, as the Slow Gods is the title, which are these black boxes pretty much, they go to several planets that are all within an 80 light year radius of a certain binary star system that's called the Honja, the lovers in certain systems. And they inform them that due to their vast prediction metrics and mathematics, they know that these binary stars will collide in 100 light years. And the resulting blast, supernova, collision, all the things that'll shoot out from these stars will wipe out these planets. They will affect all these planets. Several planets take heed. They begin mass evacuation processes. Mao's planet, of course, that does not value education, they do not. They shoot the emissary down, tell all the people, the billions of people on these planets, because they control more than one planet, that this was all a lie. This was all a propaganda. They saw nothing. And that was the beginning of, the problems on these planets and how Mao's journey started into its descent of chaos to get to what he got to. It was all because of the messages. With these stars colliding and supernovaing and the resulting blast, that is what happens all the way through. From the beginning message, the consequences of that for Mao's own life, how he had to process like right before the supernova, what happened after the supernova, and the resulting radiation blast after that even. Centuries! I'll go ahead and tell you, this book takes place over centuries. And as I said, Mao is the main character through the whole thing. Do with that what you will. Science, hardly explained. That's okay, because this is a character-focused novel. We're not focused on the action of the plot hardly. Well, I mean, there's a plot, there's a thing, there's a storyline. But it's not an action sci-fi. It's not a super sciencey sci-fi. No, this is a character-driven story. Through and through. Mao's feelings, how he's dealing with things, how he's processing things, the things that he is actually having to do in the life and the things. Is that how all of her books are? Is that a type of story you like? These are things to consider. I still greatly enjoyed the story, even though I don't think I normally like these kinds of stories, but from his perspective and the way he was narrating things and the way it was happening to him, and just, it pulled on the emotions like, wow. Okay, spoiler talk. Jump forward to the end as I try to think up my final conclusions during that process. The first thing of the spoiler, we will go ahead and delve into the arc space travel and why this is so wow. The only thing that's really explained to us, besides, of course, jumping across the darkness, and it's kind of that, but you're going through the darkness. Everybody says that this is how, even the passengers, they go a little, it messes with their mind. They might hear like nails on the outside of the hull scratching as they're going through the darkness, or they might hear songs in the darkest corners of the ship, and apparently the darkness in the ship grows a bit. And how this works, it is some sort of computer system in the ship, that there is a computer system, but it takes not just the computer system that's specially designed for arc travel, but also a biological system, a brain. They put people in the chair and hook them up to the thing, and then it drives them nuts. So most planets, the way they do it is they do it with people who are sick and people who are dying, and they will only have like 1 or 2 trips that they pilot, and then they get to retire to a nice island with benefits to live the rest of their life slightly crazy and in comfort. The Shine, however, they of course use deaders, and there was something about radiation. I don't really remember, but I know after Mao's accident, because that's what happened when he was in the Deader colony, something happened to his leg, it got shattered, and they're like, oh, well, now he's useless to us pretty much, but we can still get a little bit of use and money back from him. We're gonna stick him in the chair. And I'm like, the chair. It made it sound like something went through his eye. I don't know, because it never said that later. It just said it interfaced with his brain. It almost sounded like the tendrils just went through his head later. He's stuck in the chair, and immediately things go wrong because they didn't have the radiation to be able to give him before they stuck him in the chair. They shot him full of a lot of drugs. And interestingly enough, even though they did all these experiments on him later, I guess because they're a better planet, but weirdly the Shine never tried to replicate this either, possibly also because they were super afraid of Mao. Nobody ever seemed to do this again to see if anybody else would come out like Mao. So they shot him full of drugs, they stuck him in the chair, he was going to set off on his first ship, and this is also a part that never got explained. It said he was leaving at 9:54 of the time of the planet, and yet 12 seconds before 9:54, all the way across the galaxy in another system, the ship appeared, covered in blood and pieces, and in the cockpit was enough blood of Mao's to prove he was dead too. But he was perfectly intact in the cabin's quarters. 12 seconds before, that was never circled back to. And from that day on, that was when he was considered human, not human, a part of the darkness, and the darkness never touched the ships that he piloted. Nobody ever had crazy symptoms when he piloted it. He liked being in the dark because he felt calm there, so he was perfectly okay still being a pilot. However, he also couldn't die. He could not die. He does not age. And any time somebody tried to kill him, as soon as they would kind of forget that they tried to kill him, he would just come back perfectly okay again. And that's why his people were afraid of him in the Shine. And he just lives on this other planet now, on his little island that they gave him. They check in on him. He has a robot companion. The first one was really rude. I really liked the second one, Reneki. They had a very nice kind of cute bond. And even when they were on a planet later, and Reneki's supposed to look after Mao and make sure he doesn't go too far into the darkness, into the crazy, and put him down if he does. Then the other interesting bit that I can only put here because it's a spoiler, it happens really late in the book, would be when Mao actually meets the Slow. He actually goes into the deep dark space accidentally, and the Slow is there waiting for him. It's like I predicted, this is probably where you would come out, so I had a version of myself here. And they have this conversation about being a god, being expected to be a god, the role you play and who you save and who you don't, and what you do to protect people. It was really interesting. It was a very cool kind of look at that. So that was very nice. The end of the book, I think it was a good ending. And I do feel bad though that Mao seems alone now. He had this companionship early on in the book, and that really affected him, and I'm glad that it gave him that though, because otherwise it was different. The way things would have turned out probably would have been different. So I'm glad that got to happen to him. So overall, I greatly enjoyed the book, even though it wasn't very actiony or very sciencey, and was kind of character focused, and the way this character had to interact with things and had to deal with things, and it really Oh my goodness, at some moments it really was. But I liked it. I liked the story it told and how it was a self-contained story. The way she ended it, I would say it could leave room that she could continue on either with his story or within this type of world. Like, it was a good ending, it was a solid ending, but with just enough openness that I could see it continuing on. Overall, it was a 4-star read. There were some parts that were a little lacking, of course, but I still bumped this up to a 4-star read. It deserves it. If you picked up the book, I'd love to know your thoughts on it. Was it as you expected or up to what you wanted out of it? Is this the author's style if you've read from her? I hope you're having an excellent day, finding something great to read. You'll subscribe if you like this video. Also, I did do a spoiler-filled reading vlog on this if you want to check it out. I should have mentioned that really early in the video. Oh, I'll see you guys in the next one.